CPRS District 2 Hall of Honor Archival Committee.
Wonderful.
And thank you for letting us come into your home. And the people here today are Debbie Walker, Sandy Cocola, Barbara Wackford, and Charlotte Williams. And I'm Judy Quatron.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So we have sent you a list of questions, and we appreciate you answering them as best you can. And we're going to perhaps we'd like to just have an informal conversation with you, if that's okay. So I'm just going to start.
Okay, good.
To begin with, your name I see is Shirley J. Kammeyer.
Right.
But what does the J stand for?
Joyce.
Joyce.
J-O-Y-C. Oh, J-O-Y-C.
Yeah, Joyce. Okay, I didn't know that. So that's the first thing.
Yes.
The mystery is solved.
Yes.
And your birthday?
March 20th, 1928.
1928. And where were you?
Seattle, Washington.
Okay, so you were a native of Washington.
Yes.
And I know that's where you began your career.
Yes.
I'm going to deviate a little bit here from this list. And where really did you begin your interest in recreation?
I began my interest in being a participant on the playground. I probably was the live-in individual in a young age, and I spent my time at the playground and would walk home and walk back down and walk home and walk back down. It was a wonderful experience.
Good.
And it was I believe a revealing instrument in finding my home ultimately.
And that was the playground was where?
It was in the Youngstown area of Seattle. And the area was just an ordinary playground, but it was my home for the summer.
I recall when you were first inducted into the Hall of Honor that you had a picture of your. We gave it back to you, and so at some point we'd love to have it again. If we can find it, but
if we can find it.
Yeah. And your education? What?
I went to the University of Washington for my bachelor's and master's degrees, and then I went to the University of Iowa for my doctorate.
And your undergraduate degree was in
physical education.
Okay. And I'm curious, what sport did you excel in?
Probably the most unusual one, which was field hockey.
Yeah.
Yes. And I used to run up and down the fields and feel very important when I was running up and down the fields.
So what was your position in field hockey? Do you remember? Were you a forward?
I was on the sidelines.
On the right side somewhere?
Yeah.
Well, field hockey actually is still popular.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, in a lot of parts of the United States. I know University Pacific has field hockey. I know Stanford does.
Wow.
Yeah, our daughter in high school played field hockey.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was always curious. Okay, and then your master's degree.
My master's degree, oh dear.
It's all right.
I can't remember my master's.
And then your doctorate was
And the doctorate.
That's okay. That's all right. Must have been in probably recreation, perhaps.
Of course, it was the implant of the recreation department within the university
Oh.
and how important it was to the university.
Oh, well, that is good. That's, yeah.
Yes, I think that was a fun thing to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And then when you came, after you got your doctorate, did you teach somewhere else, or did you come to Sac?
No, I came directly to the University of Sacramento, except whatever it was called at that time.
Yeah, it was Sacramento State College.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
So, your doctorate helped the university, our university, Sacramento State, in establishing a recreation program, because you were one of the first professors in that program.
I think so too.
Oh, yeah.
I
No,
very
you
much
were.
think so.
Yeah, no, you were. I know that.
What year did you start at Sac State?
I'm sorry you asked that.
Well,
472.
Oh yes, it was before 72. I really can't remember the year.
this listing that we had gotten from before said 1959. 59.
That's when it was?
Yeah, yeah. And I think at the time it was you and Dr. Needy were
Yes.
the
We
two.
came at the same time,
Okay.
and we sort of probably left at the same time, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
right, yeah. You left, it says, in 1988.
Yes.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
1988. So your career spanned several decades.
I would imagine so. I'd never figure it out, but it was a long time.
And your influence for our university and the community at large in the region in developing a recreation program in communities
Yes,
was very important. Very important.
I hope so.
No, it definitely was. We could all testify to that for sure.
Good.
At Sac State, what was your emphasis in teaching?
It didn't start as in therapeutic recreation, but it sort of, I sort of melted into that area because it was not well attended, and I liked it. I liked the fact that we were also working with the handicapped and trying to bring them into the usual community of recreation, and it was an interesting area.
I remember that you directed the first, we called it the first recreation for the handicapped
Yeah,
in the Sacramento city and county.
probably.
You were the director of that, and then you had some of your students working on the project.
Probably.
And you went to a variety of agencies, like
Yes,
the,
yes.
right,
Trying to field the whole field of recreation into the somewhat isolated community of the disabled.
well, I still have pictures somewhere of that project,
It too.
because we were right down here at Caleb Greenwood. I think on Saturdays we all brought, every agency brought their residents or their clients to that. And it was really I think it was a forerunner of the city program for sure.
Good,
At
good.
the time, for sure at the time.
And I worked at Easter Seals.
Easter Seals was one
Through the
vital
program.
spot, I remember.
And then at the time, the Recreation Center for the Handicapped in San Francisco was like the model, and you helped us understand what they were doing, and we
That's
took
right.
field trips and things. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Who was your mentor,
Who was my mentor in Sacramento?
or in your career?
Oh, it was Dr. Vandersmissen, who at the time was at the University of Iowa, and I studied with her, and we worked well together. And in addition to that, I kept track of her as she was migrating through the university system, and we sort of kept in touch.
Very good. And she taught in recreation there, or was
Yes,
she
yes,
did.
yes.
At the time.
Yes.
That's a good question, because Shirley truly is one of my mentors.
Oh yeah.
So
One of
I just feel that
one of
way.
my students.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
I just feel that way.
Um, why did you select recreation? Was it mainly because of your experience as a young girl on a playground, or
Yes.
something else?
It was my experience on the field in recreation as a youngster, and I rather grew into it as I migrated through the university system.
You have your whole life has been devoted to Girl Scouting.
Oh yes,
You've
yes.
had a very big impact in Girl
Yes.
Scouting.
Well, I don't know about the impact, but
Oh, no.
Girl Scouts impacted me a lot.
And so, as a youth member in Girl Scouts, you must have gone to the camp that you later directed.
Oh, yeah, I did direct it
You
one
did,
year,
yeah,
and that
that's
was a
what I
very entertaining experience. And then I sort of in and out isolated myself with the Girl Scouts. I don't know whether isolate is the correct word, but I feel like I was somewhat of a hanger-on after the years progressed.
You traveled the world, haven't you? Through
Did I have a what?
different? Haven't you traveled the world through different experiences with the Girl Scouts?
Yes, but nothing that was very earth-shaking. But I was just kind of indoctrinated into the world of Girl Scouts with the Girl Scout experiences.
Well, you went through a turbulent period. Actually, we all did.
Yes.
And I think that women were discriminated against.
Absolutely.
And I watched you, or we watched you, and how you dealt with those experiences. And so we learned a lot from just watching you.
I don't know whether it means a lot, but it meant a lot to me because I could see the growth that we were having into the field, and that we were making a difference. People like Barbara was there with always a firm hand, and I don't think I'd call it a big foot, but it was it was a track into the future that we really all needed.
Oh, yes. When I was a student at Sac State, I think there were only 2 women working in recreation full-time, and they were with the city. And then there was one with Cordova. I can't remember their names now.
I can't remember the names
Yeah,
either.
yeah. But I think that your Girl Scouting experience must have helped you.
Well, it overcame the barrier that there was
Right.
there between the men and the boys and the girls and the women.
Right, right. And I think those barriers, a lot of them we've overcome, but there's still some there. So it's
Absolutely.
yeah. So what has become your passion in life? If you could look back and say, what was your passion?
My passion was let's see. I think my passion was always to be who I am and to represent me as an individual, and that was my passion.
That was your
Not just a figure in the kaleidoscope of humanity, but I wanted to be an additional person in the world of recreation, and that addition was me.
Well, it was a big addition.
What?
You know, I said it was a big addition. That you made a big impact. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then on the other side, do you have a disappointment at all in what?
In what I have accomplished, no.
No, you're fine with that, and
Yes.
and
I'm fine with it because I have lived with it, and sometimes there are hurdles that have to be overcome, but we get around them.
right. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, very good to know. So what are you most proud of? These are big questions, but
I'm proud of the fact that Recreation District 2 acknowledged my existence and acknowledged the fact that I was somewhat of a crusader for the women in the sport.
good. All right, anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think you've answered a lot of my questions by your questions.
Okay, okay. So, what is the biggest risk in your life that you took? What do you think your biggest risk was? That's a big one.
I think it was flying an airplane.
I think so too.
I think I had to give up my pilot's license because of my eyes, which were not as wonderful as they used to be, and I had to give up that. It was a branch of my own existence, and I had to give that up, and I rather resented that.
And that leisure opportunity that you had, when did you start to fly? When did you know that you were interested in it?
In the middle of, I guess it was probably the middle of the, I don't remember.
Well, I would say you started flying. Were you flying when you came to Sac State? About
It was well after that. It was well after that.
That you started, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know,
it was in the 50s, later 50s,
Yeah.
that I did fly.
did you have any discrimination with that? I mean, did somebody say,
No.
"Oh, a woman can't fly. You can't do
No.
that"? No. Okay.
But I flew when I wanted to fly, and I
Good.
flied.
Good. Good. Yeah. That's good. I don't think I've ever known a woman pilot. And today, I'm sure they're all over, but.
How do you do?
Oh. Yeah, I don't think I've ever known one, so I'm pretty impressed. Okay, so what do you think is the biggest challenge in the field of recreation and parks today that you know of at this point?
Is this in terms of races, or it's in terms of the whole play area?
Whatever. It can be whatever you want it to be.
I think the biggest challenge is for people to do what they want to do and when they want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is a very major idea of people, that they have to, they can do what they want to do when they want to do it. And sometimes that's not always possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's possible when you persevere what you want to do.
Okay. Do you think that part of what you're saying should be emphasized in school, like in elementary school,
Absolutely.
in high school?
Absolutely.
I mean, so our leisure education component that,
Yes.
how do you,
I don't think that girls and women need to be discriminated against because they are girls and women. I think they have an open opportunity to truly do what they want to do when they want to do it.
okay, I've asked a lot of questions. I'm going to keep going if that's okay. And
I don't know, it depends on the group.
oh yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
they're so personal.
Yes.
Now we're real personal here, and how did you spend your leisure when you were, let's say, working? When you were working,
When I was working,
working, teaching.
teaching, how did I spend my leisure? I spent my leisure time trying to improve my own ability to get along with everybody, and that was one of my major concerns, was to break the barrier of women and men and kind of scoot around it if I could, to become somebody who could do what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it, and not to be circled by all of the things that women are supposed to be able to do, but don't get to do it. I guess that's one of the things that rather motivated me.
Yeah, you were interesting. You were curious because, well, I was there in the early '60s at Sac State, so and I knew what you were trying to do, but you were very subtle. And so she was very subtle because you knew that the small steps were the best.
Yes.
And you could tell that. I could tell that.
Where'd you
So
get that?
yeah, I could tell that.
I'm
The
so
small
glad you noticed.
steps. I did. It was funny. I was thinking, aha,
I'm
let's see
glad
what
you
comes
noticed.
next. And then today, now, what is important to you for your leisure?
For my teaching,
Leisure.
for my leisure. My leisure is, it's important to me to see women do what they want to do when they want to do it.
Good.
Shirley, you have done so much traveling in your lifetime.
Yes, yes.
And to me, it's so exciting to get your Christmas letter and tells us all about all these wonderful places and friends you have all over the world and places you've been. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, I don't know what to say other than the fact that it's an exciting experience to go places where other people have not necessarily been, and that's always an intriguing process for me, to be where other people have not necessarily been able to do. And I'm grateful that I have been able to do that. And Charlotte, my partner, of over 35 years, has been very helpful, and we do it together, and it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Makes a difference. So, who were your heroes or your role models?
Probably Dr. Betty Vandersmissen from
Okay.
the University of Iowa, who was an old role model, and who also did a lot of pioneering in terms of crossing that border between the men and the women. And individually, it was probably Pat Carrish from the ground level occupation that I had while I was in Seattle. And she was a role model, and she rather pioneered a lot of people to get into the field and stay there.
So was she at the city recreation and parks department in
The county.
of the county?
Yes.
And her title at the time, was she supervisor or superintendent?
Oh yes, she was supervisor, and
Okay.
she was I hate to say it, she was my boss.
Did you have your students participate in
Yes.
Special Olympics at the university?
Yes.
So you must have been involved in the first Special Olympics at the university?
Oh, at the university, yes.
Yeah.
In Sacramento area.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a huge piece of history there. And do you remember what it was like at first? The first one? Do you remember anything
Well,
about
it was easy because I had such good students all the way, and they were so very, very helpful, and they were so very helpful in terms of pulling in everybody else. So it was not a hard job.
I'm that question kind of led me to something else as a personal question. What was your biggest challenge as a professor at Sac State in teaching?
What was my biggest
Challenge as a professor teaching students?
I don't know how to answer that. I really don't.
You don't, yeah.
I don't know. Because
Yeah.
I don't want to compare the
No.
teaching of girls and women
No.
as opposed to men, because that's a whole new, it's an area that's my area, and so I can't compare it to men.
For me personally, I remember being so upset if I didn't have everybody leaving class just excited and interested, and then one day Dr. Needy told me, Judy, if you can get to one student, you're doing well, and that was a challenge for me. It was hard for me to keep students interested all the time. That was my biggest challenge, and I know if you had anything.
No, I did not
Okay.
have that
Okay.
challenge.
Good. Well, that's good. I did. Okay. You know, we're going to talk about family here a little bit. Your family.
Yes.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
I had 4 brothers and 2 sisters.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And so where are you in the...
Unfortunately, I'm the baby of the family. And when you're the baby of the family, as you come along, you probably, you don't intercept anybody because they're all up here. And I'm down here with my mother and father. But it was fun.
It was fun. Yeah.
It was fun.
Big family.
Yes.
So, looking at your traditions, what was one that you cherished? Which one do you remember?
I remember my mother, who was the crowning soul of our family. She was the primary person who brought us all together and kept us all together, and I loved her very much.
Oh, yeah. So what was her maiden name?
Ida Louise Kammeyer.
Okay, that was her. Okay, that was her name. Ida.
Louise.
Ida. Okay. What is the biggest honor that you have received?
Well, I would say that my foremost honor was the acknowledgement from District 2
Oh, that was
of our allegiance and of our following of the District 2.
okay. That's nice to know. I mean, all of the people that you work with all your life and influence felt that you deserve that special
I
distinction.
appreciated it
Yeah,
tremendously.
you've done a lot for us. Camping. We talked about Girl Scouts, but you also were president of the American Camping Association, the Northern California chapter. And how has camping impacted your life?
Well, it's an ultimate. I don't know how to explain it, but it's an ultimate attitude that one has about the out of doors that I think everybody needs to experience, and that's why I was so sold on having our students be a part of the out of doors and feeling that out of doors attitude.
Well, there's so many that have never experienced anything like that.
Yes, and it was always a wonderful experience to notice the difference in the smile and the attitude of people that were experiencing the out of doors.
Good. So how do you define a good life?
I define a good life by being happy in what you're doing. And that happiness is, it radiates to everybody else, and it's always an important part of their being.
I know that your spiritual life has been very important.
Yes, it is.
And so we know today that that's all a part of
Yes,
being fit
yes,
and healthy.
that's right.
And I know you've given back a tremendous amount to that
It's never
entity.
enough.
Yeah. And I remember that you had an organ or a piano that was your family's.
Oh, it was
that-
our family piano. It's
Yeah.
it's in the living room now.
Okay, but at one point, did you not donate something to your church like that? I thought you may have an organ
I
of
think
some
I
sort.
did. I did
Donated
it to the-
an organ because her mother had donated an organ to her.
Yeah,
My mother
yeah,
donated
that's what I thought. You want some
Excuse
water?
me.
Or?
to the first church, and then I think I helped donate the next one, didn't
Yeah.
I?
I remember
With
that.
Charlotte's help.
Yeah, I remember that, and I thought that was certainly a wonderful thing to do, and it was a legacy that you've left for your church. That would be really good. What would you like people to remember you about you?
I would like to be remembered as a friend.
Okay, a friend to, and that's certainly the compliment to anybody if you said that they were your friend.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you want to leave us? What is the biggest advice that you might leave?
For all of us, I would say it's to be a part of everybody else. It's not anything that should be outstanding and out of the ordinary. I think we are all a part of the whole and the being, and I think it's wonderful to be a part of the all.
Very good. Well, I would like to ask anyone else here that has something that they would like to ask Shirley to go ahead and do.
What was your favorite subject to teach?
My favorite subject to
Yeah,
teach,
or your favorite class? What did you enjoy?
my favorite class, I really can't answer that because they were all my favorites. I wish I could.
That's good.
That's all right. That's good. That means you were motivated. And,
Yes.
yeah.
What advice would you have for today's students?
Pardon?
What advice would you have for today's students?
I would, my advice would be to give it your all. Don't hold back on anything, but give it everything you have as a human being and learn as much as possible. But I don't think that's always necessary to tell people that unless they're somehow can be motivated by someone who has already experienced it.
Very good.
You know, for several years I had an opportunity to be with Shirley, and we were on the scholarship foundation for the state CPRS. And that
Yes.
was so much fun. We had such a good time.
It's always fun to associate with students, and when there's no barrier between like student and teacher, it's wonderful. No barriers at all.
There is one question here that I haven't asked you, but it would be good to know. What do you know now that you wish you'd known when you were young, just beginning your career?
Wish I had known then what I know now.
Yep.
Oh my word. That is a bucket question, isn't it? I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know.
That's all right. That's, yeah.
I don't know. Anybody else have an answer to that?
Not for you. I know for me, yeah. I know a mistake that I made when I was young. And I think I told you this once.
I don't remember.
It's not my interview, but I had somebody, an administrator, tell me once that I shouldn't apply for the superintendent's job because I wouldn't have time because I was married and I probably wanted to have children and I wouldn't have time. And I listened. I did listen because I respected this person a great deal, and I was in between generations almost. You know, I was more towards your generation and not so much towards yours, and I still halfway believed all of the information. That's probably one of mine. But
I would have to answer that as a one-sided person, that I would have no problem whatsoever in leading my own life and doing what I wanted to do.
oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And that came from your mother, probably, and your family.
No,
teaching
I
you?
don't think so. I think it was sort of an ingrown attitude that I had from my whole experience with my mother.
But growing up as the youngest,
Yes.
too,
Mhm,
learning
Yeah.
to be that independent person
Yes,
with
yes.
so many layers above you.
You're independent, but you're dependent.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's-
I have a question. It's not on my list, but if you hadn't taught if you hadn't gone into education, was there another avenue that you might have pursued?
No.
Okay, so
I can't think of anything that I would rather do than teach. And teaching is a wonderful experience. There's nothing better than to see people that I know I have pushed along the way and watch them excel and watch them be exceedingly experienced and capable in their own areas. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Great.
That applies to all of you.
well, thank you. And
Yeah, I do have one question. I was just wondering, what was it like at Sac State when you started? I know the campus has transformed many times over with buildings and a lot more students and a lot more majors, but what was it like when a typical
well,
day, you know?
It's all day, but it also is also an experience that you really have to grow with, because there wasn't anything overwhelming. Nothing overwhelmed me, which was really good, because I could have been overwhelmed. But because there wasn't anything that was a hurdle for me to overcome, I didn't have any hurdles. But I know that there were hurdles that women had to overcome, and it was kind of a cherished attitude. Not cherished, that's the wrong word, but it was kind of an overwhelming attitude. But I'm glad I was above that. And I think Shockey Needy had a lot to do with that, because he was right there to push all the way.
So he
And
didn't
he
just push
did.
his students, he pushed his faculty too, right?
yeah. Good. Well, I think that concludes our interview.
Thank you very much for
Unless
your interview.
there is anything you feel that you would like to include in this, and any subject maybe that we
No,
don't
there's
know?
nothing that I would like to include, but I would like to congratulate all of you for this kind of experience that you would be giving to any faculty member that would be willing to take the role upon themselves, because it's a good experience for us, as well as a good experience for you.
Good. Well, thank you,
Thank
and
you.
thank you to Charlotte for all the wonderful years of friendship, and your wonderful life with Shirley has been fabulous, and we really appreciate you always providing access to Shirley. And thank you very much. You both make a wonderful team, and so we really appreciate everything.